not Sunny Danforth, or Sunny Danforth has dramatically changed and is now is ubiquitous everywhere. We are all Sunny Danforth. So do you see that, David? You are all. So this is David Darnell, my intrepid co-host, also known as Sunny Danforth. It's our new alias. All of us have the same alias, but
I changed your name, Kevin.
Yes, you just changed mine. We'll get the names right by the end of the show. Promise.
I did a show. I think it was Friday's show. I did it as Kevin Hoare.
Yeah. Yes. Let's keep them guessing. Maybe people will contact us and say, "Did you know that your name was wrong?" And it's like, "Yep." This is
Here, we'll run it like this and see what everybody thinks.
Well, why not have some fun at it? And hi to you, Bobby. Good to see you. Good to see you in the feed there. So we got pretty good show here today. I think yesterday we talked about something that was going on. Sunny and I did down in Eugene, a hearing about a natural gas ban. And you know what? The residents of Eugene rocked it.
Did they? Good.
They did. And
they showed up?
They showed up in big numbers. And in fact, the top of the 5 o'clock news, it says first at 5. So I don't know what time that was. Maybe that was today, just now, actually. Yes, in fact, it was. Covered what happened last night. And if you watch the video, it features Monique Despain, who's a Lane County Republican who just got elected as a delegate. And she was the featured person. And she goes, "You guys don't have the support of the people of Eugene on this," which is saying something, because we know Eugene is like very, very much in favor of this stuff, especially with University of Oregon being located there. But as we talked about last night, the polling says that 75% of the people in Eugene are against it. So, boy, they really stepped in it. And I guess they had like a record number of people turn up to testify at this. And that has everything to do with the fact that the Lane County Republicans decided to show up in force, as well as business owners in the community. 80% of the business owners, Eugene, oppose this natural gas ban. Restaurants hate it, all of them. And I think this is great, because not only does it, most of the time, nobody fights back on this garbage. These natural gas bans get proposed, and there's actually one already on buildings over 3 stories. There's just aren't a lot of those in Eugene. But now they want to ban it in buildings under 3 stories, as well as in new homes, new residences that are built, which this is what they do, right? They just demand things and claim the world's going to end. And before you know it, the next thing they're doing is they are finding a way to ban it and force people to retrofit their homes, especially if they sell their homes. That's what comes next. So what do? You fight it now. And what do? You fight it in Eugene. Because what do they do when they pass it in Eugene? Then they go to Portland and they say, "Hey, this is a great idea. We just did it in Eugene," and they love it. And then before you know it, it's a state law, or different municipalities are fighting it. Let's fight them where they are trying to do this stuff first, and then defeat it. Hats off to them. Frankly, this is amazing. This is a great example of what people can do when they get organized and respond.
Yes. Yeah, Eugene is a great place to fight. That is the place where the communists return every September to lay their eggs. It's a perfect place to get this kind of crap, this climate change virtue signaling out of public policy. If you want to stand outside and hold a sign and get your kids to hold a sign, save the earth, whatever, that's fine. But man, when you start making stupid policy like this based on spurious science, the science of climate change, it has real world impacts. And as we all know, natural gas is very plentiful in America, and it's been historically quite inexpensive to produce heat, much less expensive than electricity, which is in rather short supply throughout the grid. it just, man, it has so many downsides. I can't imagine anybody would seriously consider making this a policy move.
Yeah, and I think even the folks that are saying, well, they're concerned about the climate and they think, they should take steps to do it. They don't want these radical steps, which are, as you said, they're just virtue signaling. The microscopic impact that the city of Eugene could have, where they get to feel good about themselves and tell other municipalities we're awesome.
Yeah, even the whole state of Oregon. The state of Oregon could go, completely zero emissions, and it wouldn't make any difference in the world climate. It would make zero difference.
Well, especially with China building like a coal plant a week. It's just it's like, yeah.
What is Oregon policy now? A carbon offset for China?
Yeah, that's right. That's our job, to carbon offset China. And really, there's a lot of very practical people who say, look, we're moving towards renewables. There's people that are doing stuff in the building trades and in a lot of the different trades where they repair and replace and upgrade equipment, HVAC equipment. They're doing all this stuff, but they're doing it at a sustainable pace where it doesn't actually negatively impact their ability to deliver these services. These guys, I watched a good chunk of the testimony, and it was University of Oregon student after University of Oregon student after University of Oregon student, who are these transients, right? That come into the community and for a few years get their communist indoctrination, and then they all put on the same T-shirts and they show up and claim that demanding things from the City Council of Eugene. And I'm like, well, maybe they should just like fix University of Oregon first, and then pass on the costs of mass electrification to the people taking student loans out, or to the parents paying the tuition, and see how they like it. Does that make sense? I mean, why not do that first?
Well, if the cost of education, including the backstocking of student loans, wasn't on my tab and my account and my credit as a taxpayer, I would say yes. I mean, you just take the University of Oregon by itself, which has I can't calculate the heating needs of the many buildings which make up that campus, but converting that to electricity would, it would probably get close to 50% higher. To run the building, and you can install all of the solar panels you want. You can get rid of the athletic fields and cover them in solar panels, but even that is not having. Well, number one, they don't work they don't work very well at night.
There's clouds up there, by the way. Did you notice? One guy actually testified and said, "There's a problem. I love solar panels. I've had them since 1994." This is his testimony. He said, "But have you noticed they don't really work all year round?"
Yeah. Well, they don't work half of every day. I mean, in the winter, it's at the 44th parallel or wherever they are, they don't work, quite a bit more than half of the day. But the other thing about solar panels is the embedded costs in manufacturing. I'm not sure. There seems to be, everybody's got their own spin on the science. Everybody's got their own spin on the mathematics. But I think you could make a fairly good case that you can't offset enough carbon by using a solar panel throughout the duration of its useful life. You can't even offset the manufacturing of the panel.
Yeah, the CO2 emitted to manufacture it, right?
Yeah, which is largely manufactured by fossil fuels, as is most
in China.
Yes.
Using
where people have to wear particulate filters, not just face masks, but canister filters, because the air is so bad.
For real pollution, not the invisible stuff we're breathing out that plants need to live, but soot.
Yes, the building block of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this is so great to see people like waking up and pushing back, and then I hope they feel the satisfaction of actually following through on this. And look, don't give up, because even if the city council does the wrong thing, I understand that down in Eugene, they recently recalled a city councilor. In fact, the one whose idea this was. who is now gone. And so we can't give up when we don't immediately see the result that we want. This is a long-term struggle. The other side has been waging a long-term struggle. They've been educating college students or brainwashing them into thinking that all these things can be done just because they wish and demand it. And then they turn into these cry bullies that go out and start screaming and howling because they don't get what they want. And none of them has had to pay a bill in their life. They haven't had to go and figure out how much it's going to cost to heat their home or to retrofit it. And they think there's somebody out there ready to pay for it. Not me. Not me.
Yeah, I mean, if it costs you $200 a month to heat your home with natural gas, in the dead of winter, you can figure out a $300 bill, $350 bill for electricity. I mean, that's been my experience. I have one house that's heated by electricity, and I have one house that's heated by natural gas, and that's about the difference. That's a lot.
Natural gas bill, mine is dramatically lower, and it heats the home,
clean,
food.
Burns clean.
Natural gas water heater does all of that for a fraction of what you end up paying for the for electricity in a home that doesn't rely on it for those three things I just mentioned. So I can only imagine the astronomical electric bill, which, by the way, this grid can't handle more people being thrown onto it. They can't handle everybody buying an electric vehicle. It can't.
No. I mean, and it won't even happen in 5 years. It won't even happen in 10 years. Upgrading the grid and upgrading the generating. Well, upgrading the grid is probably the biggest, but upgrading the generating capacity to go to an all electric society it'll take a decade or longer. To do that.
And it only costs trillions to do things too fast, and both in terms of the government paying for it, but also the economic impact. It will slow down the economy, and when it does, we'll be able to pay for less of this anyway. So it's almost a problem that solves itself when they take it too far. But it does take people stepping up and reacting. And by the way, here's some more good news. So apparently, 14 local governments here in the state of Oregon are suing to block the implementation of the Governor Kate Brown, the least popular governor in the United States, her executive order on climate. The statement from these local governments is these rules are not workable for many communities, quote unquote. And it's Marion County and 13 Oregon cities sued over new land use rules adopted by the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development earlier this year, the Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities executive order. So what this is this is yet another government bureaucracy, not putting it to a vote of legislators, because this is an executive order. The people's elected representatives aren't involved with this. These are just rules they came up and said, we're going to change what you're allowed to do with land. Screw you.
Yeah.
We don't care. And I'm glad to see the cities and counties fighting back. And some of these cities and counties have rolled over for these things before. This must be, again, a bridge too far for them, because they have decided she's ordered a laundry list of state agencies to expedite new policies that would promote supposedly a reduction in emissions in a variety of ways, from reducing the use of fossil fuels for transportation and heating to promoting more climate-friendly housing development, which is going to throw the cost onto people who already can't afford homes.
No kidding.
This is
because of land use, poor land use policy. Yeah. Well, this
is the anti-housing affordability executive order.
Commission. Yeah. Well, it's another reason why the DCLD should not exist. It used to be the LCDC. Oregon is the only state in the union that has centralized land use planning. The only state in the union. And this is another reason why it's bad. It's bad, number one, because those decisions should be left in local jurisdictions in counties and cities who know best. And then secondly, this can be done. These kind of things can be done by executive order, because this agency is under the purview and control of the executive branch. just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I would love to put forth an initiative to get rid of the DCLD. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You know, the reason housing is so expensive because there's hardly any place you can build. You know, in the state of Oregon. You know, back in I think it was Tom McCall that I think started the LCDC. I can't remember, but
The
back in
urban
the
growth
70s.
boundaries and all
Yeah,
that.
back in the 70s, they wanted to make, you know, Oregon a playground for California and New York, and everybody could come here and play, and that's a great, I guess that's great if you make all your money off of tourism, but it's not so great if you have to live here and work a tourism job because there's really no place to live. And I don't know any place in Oregon where it's not a problem. I know it's huge where I live. I mean, there is absolutely in the Illinois Valley no place to live.
Yeah.
And I know it's the same in Grants Pass, probably in Medford, probably in all the cities across Oregon and the rural counties or rural areas as well, because we just can't build anything, because of the DCLD.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I also think that this is another instance of the government becoming the problem, the cause of the problem, as well as now claiming to be the solution, which will only cost trillions. Now, the mayor of Cornelius, which is a small town just west of Hillsborough in Washington County in suburban Portland Metro, his name is Jeffrey Dallin. And he said residents in Cornelius are currently dependent on cars, and that is extremely unlikely to change anytime soon. The lone linear bus line that bisects Cornelius is insufficient for all of our residents to commute. Duh, right?
Right.
I mean, the fact that he even has to point this out to the boneheads at the LCDC says a lot about dumb government supposedly implementing smart growth policies. But he said that like others, he said that actually they are one of the few majority minority cities. So where people of color, basically, which I think is mostly Latino, outnumber white residents in that city. And we constantly hear about how they're fighting for equity in Oregon. Well, what they're doing is they're sticking it to a city that is mostly the people they claim to be helping by making it impossible for these people to afford to drive to work. And he said
disequitizing them.
That's right. They're hurting them, which is that's what equity means. Then equity sucks. I know some people try to define it differently, but in practice, this is what it looks like. And he said Cornelius has already attempted the strategy proposed by the rules and introduced more dense housing by limiting available parking. That's part of the thing you were talking about, the land use restrictions. They limit where you can build and they limit how much parking you can have so that you can live in an apartment where you can't park. And he said the results have been, quote, a disaster, unquote. This is where we are heading with this, is people are starting to wake up and realizing this has actually been being inflicted by the government on the citizens. That is not the job of the government, to inflict detrimental policies on the citizens.
It is not. Our government was not designed to inflict or extract obedience or inflict injury. And it's government gone wild, Kevin, is what it is.
So the cities, I'll just name them, because if you're any of you out there listening are in these cities: Cornelius, Forest Grove, Grants Pass, Happy Valley, Hillsborough, Kaiser, Medford, Oregon City, Sherwood, Springfield, Troutdale, Tualatin, and Wood Village. And many of those are the fastest growing cities in the state. Right. And they're fighting back. That is great to see, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is. So land use is, land use, it should be as local as it can possibly be. I mean, this state approaches one size fits all. It's just horrible.
Yeah. And it ends up really to the great detriment of people in rural areas the most,
it does.
Portland size doesn't fit others at all.
Right.
No one wants the results they're getting in Portland either, by the way. Well, I'm going to change a little order here, David. I'm going to bring up number 4 on our list about Oregon gas prices, because I think it fits perfectly with what we just talked about. It's a continuation of the same theme. It turns out that Oregon's and the nation's gas prices, though they have, quote unquote, plummeted before Thanksgiving, they're still the costliest ever to fill up for a holiday. Oregon's gas prices dropped another 15 cents. However, that's 87 cents higher than a year ago. So everybody's like, yay. Oh, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. What are gas prices? I don't really know because I buy my gas in bulk. So
the national average is $3.64 basically.
right.
And
We're
the
probably a buck
Oregon
more than
average
that.
is $4.60 right now. The highest that we recorded in the last year is $5.55 in June. And then there's some examples from around the state, but the ones in the state pretty much range between $4.20 up to $4.70. And, you know, that's quite a chunk of change for anybody.
Well, it is. And who does it hurt the most?
The people who can least afford it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people who have to actually make the decision, can I afford to drive there? And I assume there's make that decision. I noticed that the rest areas are full of people that did not figure out that they couldn't afford to drive there because they had cardboard signs saying they need gas. But I would imagine that most thinking people, calculate how much it costs to get from one place to the next. And when gas is that expensive, I mean, and if you're at the lower end of the income scale, you stay home. And that's not good.
No, it's actually pretty bad because there's entire industries dependent on people traveling, especially at Thanksgiving, which is the highest travel holiday of the year.
Mhm.
And not only are they facing higher costs for gasoline, but if they want to fly, and planes actually also use fuel to fly, but if they want to fly, they're paying record prices for that because that's been completely messed up, the entire system, by the Brandon administration and the way they've handled it. So this is a perfect storm of inflation and impacting people at the very time when they should actually be able to go out and enjoy visiting people. And there's an article here in the Herald, the Klamath Falls Herald and News, states high gas prices and inflation prompting canceling car trips, but few are turning to transit. Which, who's surprised at that? You know, the boneheads who thought everybody, when gas prices got higher, they were suddenly going to turn to riding transit, which takes probably 3 to 4 times as long to get where you're going. Who'd have thought that maybe that wouldn't work, that would be a fail? But yet they're pouring billions into transit, billions. Everybody's going to be forced to do it, is what they thought.
Well, yeah. I froze up there, so I didn't hear everything you heard.
Well, so basically, gas prices are going up. It says here, 52% of drivers in Oregon report canceling trips. And 46% said they are combining more trips and carpooling more this year because of high gas prices. Only 15% of Oregonians report using more mass transit. 15%. If you look at where the budget spending is going and the virtue signaling, again, about how they're going to control the world's climate by forcing everybody to be greatly inconvenienced at great expense, they're spending tons of money on transit. And only 15% of the people actually find it useful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's horribly expensive, especially in Oregon. I mean, what's some of that light rail is $250 million a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may as well gold plate the thing. I mean, it's just.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you, but I don't know how many times I've driven down 205, and especially this time of year when it gets dark early, you drive down 205, and there's 6 people on Max train. There's 6 people on a freaking Max train, and they were probably people that used to ride the bus.
Yeah. So they actually are replacing more affordable, less expensive, and efficient mass transit with less affordable, less efficient, more expensive transit.
And less utilized too, because they don't have near the coverage that buses do.
That's right. It's this old system, like everybody's going to live around and commute via these spoke connectors of light rail. Instead, people go from point to point. Like if I go and I need to go take something to the dry cleaner, I can't take mass transit to that. It would take me an hour to go a 10-minute car trip because mass transit's not going where I'm going.
Right. Well, there's a reason that every major city in America has more than one set of railroad tracks from bygone eras. It didn't work. And they keep trying it over and over again.
It's good for freight. It's good for freight to go from hubs of transit and distribution facilities, which, by the way, most of the time those distribution facilities still offload to trucks that then burn diesel, which they've made very difficult to come by in many places in the country and in the world, in order to transport those goods to its final destination. But trains can be involved with that. But trains, not great if you got to go to the Safeway to get something for dinner. Not really. But you tell that to somebody.
Or if you got to go work with all your tools,
Yeah, exactly. Or if you just want to go to Costco and pick up, a bunch of
$1,000 of stuff in a cart, which I think is like a normal Costco trip.
Take that on the train or the bus, for that matter. It's like I have a big screen TV. Can we fit this in here? I
have a big screen TV and 4 cubic yards of toilet paper, and I need to get on a bus.
I'm trying to imagine 4 cubic yards of toilet paper. We should do that and film it as a comedic skit, right? We should get 4 cubic yards of toilet paper and try to take it on a bus and see what happens. Just to illustrate the utility value of mass transit, even in the most efficient, affordable form. Yeah, no, that's true. Well, speaking of efficient and affordable, it turns out that the state of Oregon, there's a revenue forecast that comes along. And that revenue forecast is based on the latest, greatest figures, which are supposed to govern how the state spends money. They do these projections and they imagine in a biennium how much money is going to come in, how much they're going to spend. And then whatever's left over is supposed to be returned to the voters who are paying these taxes in the form of what's called the kicker. The kicker, it gets kicked back to the taxpayers. And by the way, a lot of people really do need those funds, especially now with inflation going up, the cost of everything, food, transportation, medical care, educate, all these things, all of them going up, right? Everything. And but the government doesn't see it that way. And it turns out that this latest forecast, which says here that in fact they are projecting that the monies coming into the state for the current 2-year biennium will be an incredible $4.97 billion ahead of what they thought they would get when they wrote the current budgets back in 2021, just less than 2 years ago. So they're off by that much. That means the personal kicker will be somewhere around $3.7 billion when it's paid out in 2024. So you don't get it this year or next year, but it's the year after, right? That would be approximately $1,737 on average per taxpayer. I guess it relates to the level of income because that's what you had to pay in. And now, of course, lawmakers who are spending at a record rate already are saying that they need to suspend the personal kicker so they can steal all that money and go spend it on Lord knows what. And we've got Republican State Senator Lynn Finley is actually defending the kicker and reminding the committee that the bar was super high to suspend it. They need a 2/3 vote of both the House and the Senate to do that. So, don't try to monkey with the kicker. And as we know, 2/3 is a supermajority, right? Well, guess what they don't have anymore as a result of the recent election.
Hallelujah to that.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That means the election actually did have a result. We should point out could prevent them from stealing $1,737 from each and every person that is watching us right now.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to point out, kind of back up and point out that no one pays income taxes in America. Income taxes are confiscated because ultimately, if you don't quote pay unquote your income taxes, someone with a gun will come to your house and extract that from you. So, those taxes are confiscated. I mean, you have the ability, you have the option whether or not you want to pay a sales tax. You just don't buy anything. But, and that money, that money that's confiscated, the fact that we have to have a kicker law, the fact that we have sometimes surpluses tells you that just the taxes are just way too high to begin with. I mean, government should be looking at deficits. Government should be looking at, oh, hey, we're going to have to cut some stuff out because we didn't get as much money in as we had anticipated or hoped. But instead, we have to pass laws to keep greedy politicians, and in this case, Oregon Democrats, who never met spending that they didn't want to jump in on, to keep them from spending money that they don't need to spend, wasn't even in the budget. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
what they should be doing is they should be zero-based budgeting, figuring out what works, only spend the money that is actually necessary and effective. And then when that's done, decide, okay, this is how much money we need to have to pay for it. And don't take any more than that in the first place. In other words, the amount of money you spend shouldn't be driven by what the revenue is that comes in. It should be driven by what you need to spend it on. And then that's it. And then the rest should remain in the hands of the taxpayers in the first place and never confiscated, as you said, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've long believed that the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the American taxpayer was withholding. I truly believe that Americans should pay their taxes, quote unquote, pay their extraction fees to the government on the first Monday in November. And I think that would go a long ways towards helping politicians understand where the American taxpayer is coming from. Because if you have to write a check, to keep people with guns from coming to your house and taking your stuff, confiscating your stuff, I think you'd vote much differently.
Yeah, I agree that people are desensitized to it through payroll withholding. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this article also points out something fascinating. The state currently right now has $6 billion in cash reserves. So it can bridge most economic challenges that come along.
Sure.
This unprecedented level of cash reserves should take any real talk of raising taxes or suspending the kicker off the table. Because if somebody believes that we really need to go and spend more than we planned in 2021, which is still a record increase in spending, then you've got cash reserves you can go spend, which means you can only do it temporarily instead of increasing the baseline budget going forward by yet another chunk. Because what happens if they go and spend all this money? They go spend, at least $3.7 billion more in the state of Oregon. That becomes the new level of the budget. And then if we come back a biennium later and say, you know what, we spent more, but now we're not taking in as much revenue, they will call that a cut.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's called lost revenue. Taxes not collected are lost revenue for the state. God.
Well, and the performance of the state in delivering the services that it's already on the hook for has been so horrible. Education, delivering unemployment benefits, all these different things, IT infrastructure of the state government that fails.
PERS,
all these things. Yeah, they all these things they're doing, they're terrible at it. So they're not earning this revenue either as something that is deserving, because they're just doing such a super awesome job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's starting to fade into memory, but you and I, and probably a lot of people watching the show, remember that, it wasn't too many years ago. I guess it's starting to get to be a few now, but the state of Oregon wasted $300 million on a website that didn't work, never worked. And $200 million thinking about building a bridge. And so that was $500 million, $500 million down the drain for absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's real money even today. And it was wasted almost 10 years ago when they did that. We could use that money now for some of these things that are priorities they say they don't have enough money for. Well, I think that's a proper treatment of the topic. We're just putting it on everyone's radar because watch this. Watch when they start saying that they demand to have tax increases. Fortunately, because of the progress we made in this election by winning a few more seats, maybe not as many as we'd hope, but several more, they are now going to have to take that and either negotiate with Republicans over the budget, or they're going to have to go and refer a tax increase to the people. And let's see how they like it, especially when it involves taking $1,737 away from each one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once 111, is that the healthcare is a right for everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Once the implementation of that happens, you watch your taxes. I think the estimates are that the top tax bracket in Oregon now is 9.9%. So 9.9% of your income is confiscated by the state of Oregon. That's going to raise to nearly 18%. Yep. So if you're in the top tax bracket, you will pay 18% in the state of Oregon and 37% to the federal government. You'll have more than half of your money confiscated by an inept, ineffectual, inefficient government with no recourse.
Who's expanding the number of things they want to be in charge of so they can fail at those things too. That's the bad news if we let them do it. So let's not let them do it. And let's make sure all of our Republican representatives and senators know how we feel about this. I know they are listening and they know that that the Democrats are hatching this plan. Now, speaking of government failing, there's been a debate lately in Portland and Multnomah County, which has been, let's say a giant criminal dumpster fire here for several years now, and it's only gotten worse. Turns out that Multnomah County, which the district attorney is Mike Schmidt, a Soros district attorney who doesn't like prosecuting people for crimes and likes to let them out on the street even when they are going to be charged. He is letting over 50% of all theft cases go free as dismissed. 50%. So remember back when theft was actually a crime and you could be prosecuted for it? And now there's literally places shutting down. The Nike store on Martin Luther King Boulevard has shut down because of being robbed so much. And then when you go and you hear a statistic like this, and 50% of those theft cases go unprosecuted, surrounding counties, Washington and Clackamas, it's like night and day. Washington County, which has an actual district attorney who will prosecute people, they prosecute 93% of theft cases. Clackamas, 84%. Multnomah, 46%. So it's actually less than 50%. And when it comes to liquor, 450% increase. Of course, those same places tend the places where people that are drug dealing hang around too. So those places are getting busted into all the time. It is. We're also the car theft capital of the United States. The car theft capital of the United States.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and then a 270% increase in catalytic converter thefts in the same period of time. And the answer from the district attorney is to let 54% of them go unprosecuted.
Yeah. I don't know how voters can continue to do that in Multnomah County. I know there are some changes in the last election, at least in the city of Portland, and I'm glad to see that. But it amazes me that voters seem to be disconnected. There seems to be a disconnect between the things that affect their lives and the elected officials that create the policy and execute the policy. businesses are the hardest hit. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, didn't Target recently reveal that they lost like $400 million in shrinkage?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, are you going to are you going to keep your Target store open in Multnomah County? Probably not.
Plus, it's not very nice to go shop at a Target store where you're in the same place doing real shopping that you plan to pay for when some kind of vagrant comes in and starts piling things into a bag, clearly so he can take it out and sell it so that he can do meth. And it's like, I don't know, this isn't really the shopping environment I was looking for.
Yeah, it's not exactly Bridgeport, is it?
No. In Bridgeport, Washington County or Clackamas, I forget which one, and where people actually get prosecuted for this stuff. I just saw a video of somebody who went into, I think it was a Fred Meyer, and they just grabbed a whole bunch of merchandise and then ran out and threw it into their van, and then they went on a high-speed chase to flee the place, and they showed a cop that put out a spike strip on this van. And sure enough, I mean, for once in Portland, they actually stopped this person. The tires went flat, the thing skidded and crashed. And then they found the person that was in it. And it was kind of jaw dropping. She was apparently not smart enough to not confess her crime, because she just basically told us, I just needed some money for some meth. And people are willing to buy this stuff right out on the street. So
right.
Doing.
So the cops go through all that trouble, and then Mike Schmidt fails to prosecute.
Lets them go. It's all okay. And maybe the problem isn't just the district attorneys. There's actually another problem, which is judges. So there's a judge who ruled that writers can freely harass journalists. In particular, Andy Ngo. There was a case in which a guy assaulted Andy Ngo, took his phone. He said, I will break your effing phone. And it was an Antifa member who assaulted and took his phone. And the Antifa guy's name is John Hacker, which, and he looks like a real upstanding citizen when you see him in this. But the guy waived his right and was questioned by the judge. And he just said, he just thought he needed to go and he thought he was going to be surveilled by Andy Ngo. Andy Ngo was like at an athletic club or something, just looking to work out. And this guy decides to assault him. And, and so the same thing's happening. And of course, a KATU reporter also was attacked by rioters. The rioters left messages like "kill the press," and I know. And then there was, as we know, a conservative journalist in Portland in 2020 who was knifed by somebody. Managed to survive that, but this judge ruled that it's perfectly okay. He wasn't going to follow through and convict on these charges. So we got to do something about the judges too, who don't really give a crap about the law.
Yeah. Well, if they're elected, they can be recalled.
They can be recalled, and we can also run people against them and defeat them by pointing out what their record truly is. So that's all ahead of us, folks. The work that we have is not done. I don't know if you want to hit this last set of topics, so we can kind of wrap up here tonight. There was a funny thing that happened I'll just mention it. The White House press corps just basically exploded. It was your friend and mine, everybody's favorite highest paid federal government employee, Anthony Fauci, did his last press conference. And it was at the White House. And Karine Jean-Pierre, the highly diverse, bumbling idiot, spokes idiot for President Brandon, apparently was in this press conference, started the reporters in the back, one from the Daily Caller, and another from and another who was with another outlet, started yelling questions from the back because they were only taking questions from certain people when Anthony Fauci was up there. And it was questions about the origin of COVID in China, which the U.S. Senate actually has said it seems likely that it's from a lab. The U.S.
Surprise.
Senate, the Democrat-controlled U.S. Senate, said it's likely from a lab.
Surprise.
And they were shouting questions. And then Karine Jean-Pierre started screaming back at these people. And then some of the reporters that were getting allowed to ask questions were saying they were being disrespectful, and started going all cry bully on them. And this is hilarious. This is what they really think. Remember how Trump, who would simply criticize these reporters, was considered needed to be impeached or whatever for what he was saying about reporters. And yet when reporters actually want to ask questions, they get berated and screamed at by the spokes idiot for Brandon. I think we want to know answers to these questions. And I think Anthony Fauci is going to be hauled in front of a committee here in a few months, and he's going to be answering them under oath.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair to ask questions. Nobody has to answer them, right?
Oh, you can say, I don't want to answer.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy and insane.
Yeah. Well, the new majority in the House is going to have the chance to do their work and ask questions. But
I hope they spend all their time investigating all of this crap going on with the Democrats and don't get anything done policy wise, because we don't need any more policy.
They've passed enough laws, haven't they?
Unless you can make some policy go away, screw the policy. Let's just have theater. Or just stay home. I mean, if we can just pay them all to stay home, it'd be cheaper.
It would be cheaper. Our taxes would go down. We could pay them extra money, and our taxes would go down. Brilliant, David.
Yeah, let's pay them all $1 million a year to stay home and not do anything.
I love it. Well, that's a good note to end on. And I think we had a great show here tonight. Covered a lot of territory. Covered the best things that are happening. It was fun. And we gave you some infotainment, but you got to share it with other people. And by the way, I saw our old friend Ken Taylor dropped in on us there and added us some comments. Yeah, he was up there. He pointed out something about China and complimented another one of our folks, Laurie Shaw, one of our super fans. He said, keep up the good work, fellows. The crazy in Oregon makes my head hurt, he said. Which I can second that notion. Absolutely. So good to hear from Ken. He's off in Indiana, enjoying a red state, but we're going to keep working here in Oregon and see what we can do to move things in the right direction. Well, thanks for joining me here tonight, David. It was fun.
Thank you, Kevin. It was fun. Thanks everybody else for joining as well.
Yep. And share it with everyone you can. Don't be selfish. And we'll see you tomorrow night. It should be Don and I back. Don Anderson will be back from his foot surgery or knee surgery. And we'll cover the latest headlines on the next episode of The Captive Audience. Have a good night.